Ranked fourth, Chrysochala malachite intergrowth, landscapes carved in blue and green. Some minerals look like stones. This one looks like geography. Chrysochala malachite intergrowth forms swirling patterns that mirror satellite images of river deltas, tropical coastlines, or the blue-green edges of distant planets. The colors are vibrant, the textures fluid, the transitions seamless, two minerals merging so completely that it becomes impossible to see where one ends and the other begins. This is not surface decoration, it is geology behaving like art, and the story begins deep in the oxidized bones of ancient copper deposits. Chrysochala and malachite are both copper-bearing minerals, but their unions occur only under shifting, unstable conditions in the near-surface zones of copper ore bodies. The process begins with malachite, forming as copper carbonates precipitate from alkaline waters. Its banding is structured, rhythmic greens, layered and disciplined, but when acidity increases, often due to seasonal rains or changing groundwater chemistry, malachite begins to dissolve. Copper-rich fluids then deposit chrysochala, a hydrated copper silicate, into the newly emptied spaces. Unlike malachite's strict geometry, chrysochala forms in fluid patches and flowing zones. When these processes repeat across centuries, the two minerals weave themselves into one another. The result is a topographical mosaic, waves of blue, currents of green, edges that look like shorelines. No two pieces resemble each other because no two copper veins undergo identical chemical histories. The stone becomes a map of geological change, layer by layer, rainfall by rainfall, reaction by reaction. Both minerals have long cultural footprints. When the two fuse underground, cultures interpret the result as balance. Structure married to calm, strength wedded to grace. Collectors in modern Egypt call it the Stone of Agreements, referring to the way its patterns blend without conflict. In the Americas, it is known as earthwater stone for its resemblance to coastlines, the border between two worlds. In contemporary metaphysical settings, Chrysochala malachite intergrowth is used in rituals focused on integration, merging past and present, reconciling conflict, stabilizing emotion. The duality of the stone, one mineral structured, the other fluid, makes it a symbol of balance achieved through change. Practitioners often place the stone at the center of circular layouts to represent the merging of separate forces or identities. Its patterns act as visual anchors, not symmetrical, but harmonious. It is a ritual object that reaffirms this truth. Transformation does not erase origins, it merges them. The intergrowth is far rarer than either mineral alone. Collectors pay for pattern above all else. Specimens from Congo, Arizona, Peru, and the famous deposits of the Democratic Republic of the Congo command premium prices. Slabs cut to reveal aerial map motifs are prized by interior designers and museums. Meanwhile, fine botryoidal formations, where the two minerals shimmer in circular domes, are sought after by high-end collectors. Unlike single mineral gems, price is not defined by clarity or carat weight. Value depends on narrative, how clearly the stone expresses the story of two minerals learning to coexist. Chrysochala malachite is born from change, shaped by chemistry, and elevated by art-like patterning. It is geology caught in the act of transformation. From Earth-like landscapes, the countdown now turns toward a mineral that doesn't resemble landscapes at all, but fractals. Patterns within patterns, structures that look half-grown, half-erased. Ranked third, skeletal quartz. The crystal that remembers every interrupted moment. Quartz is supposed to grow in clarity and order. Smooth faces, clean prisms, predictable geometry. Skeletal quartz breaks that expectation. Its crystals form with hollow interiors, stepped layers, labyrinth-like cavities, and geometric shadows running through the core. It looks unfinished, as if nature paused mid-creation and never resumed. This is the mineral where absence becomes structure, where incomplete growth becomes beauty, where the story lies not in what formed, but in what didn't. Skeletal quartz develops when growth conditions fluctuate faster than the crystal can respond. Temperature drops, silica availability shifts, hydrothermal pressure pulses. Each disturbance interrupts the lattice. causing cavities and recesses to form inside the developing prism. The result, hollow channels stretching like corridors, stepped pyramids forming inside the crystal, phantoms, ghost layers recording earlier stages of growth, window-like openings that reveal the mineral's interior architecture. These internal shapes are not defects. They are growth history frozen in 3D, a geological journal of interruptions. In rare cases, fluid inclusions remain trapped inside hollow chambers, preserving tiny bubbles of ancient water. Some specimens even display parallel growth lines like the pages of a book, each line marking a shift in the crystal's environment. Quartz is usually the mineral that hides nothing. Skeletal quartz is the mineral that hides nothing about its own formation. Though skeletal quartz lacked widespread recognition in ancient civilizations, cultures that did encounter it interpreted it as a stone of duality, solid yet hollow, complete yet incomplete. In parts of Brazil, miners called it cristal com alma, the crystal with a soul, because its inner shadows looked like a presence trapped within. In the Alps, early collectors named it fenster quartz or window quartz, believing the openings symbolized portals into deeper truths of the earth. The interpretation is universal. Skeletal quartz is seen not as a whole crystal, but as a record, a diary of geological struggle and survival. Modern ritual use focuses heavily on the stone's internal architecture. Practitioners use skeletal quartz in ceremonies involving reflection, memory, and self-examination. Unlike clear quartz, which represents focus and clarity, skeletal formations symbolize introspection. The idea that beauty exists in interruptions, in pauses, in incomplete moments. The cavities inside the crystal are often interpreted as chambers of experience. In meditative practice, holding the stone and observing its shadows becomes an exercise in acknowledging complexity rather than erasing it. It is not a stone of answers. It is a stone of questions, and that is precisely its power in ritual settings. High-end skeletal quartz specimens are far rarer than ordinary quartz collectors look for. Sharp internal step-like structures, clean windows revealing internal growth, distinct phantom layers, minimal fractures, dramatic geometric voids or hollowed cores. Localities like Brandenburg, Namibia, the Swiss Alps, Arkansas, and certain regions of Brazil produce masterpieces with clarity that exposes each internal chamber like architectural cutaways. In recent years, skeletal quartz has become a favorite among top-tier collectors because it offers something quartz almost never does. Mystery. Each piece is uniquely sculpted by interrupted growth, making it inherently non-replicable. Its rising demand reflects a shift in mineral collecting. Value is moving from perfection toward complexity, where clear quartz represents order, skeletal quartz represents narrative. Its worth lies not in flawlessness, but in the story written inside its walls. From fractured geometry, the countdown now enters the realm of mathematical perfection. Cubic crystals so exact they appear engineered, not grown. Ranked second, fluorite cubes. Geometry, perfect enough to question reality. Crystals grow. They do not assemble. They respond to their environment. They do not calculate. Yet fluorite forms cubes so exact, so sharply defined, that they often look carved rather than grown. Each face is flat. Each edge is true. Each angle lands at a perfect 90 degrees. Collectors call them nature's architecture. Scientists call them mathematical obedience. But most viewers have the same reaction. How can the Earth do this? Fluorite forms from calcium fluoride in hydrothermal veins and limestone cavities where temperature, fluid chemistry, and space align with near impossible precision. Its atomic structure arranges itself in a cubic lattice, an ordered grid of ions that expands outward in perfect symmetry. When growth conditions remain stable for long periods, the crystals sharpen into unmistakable cubes, faces as smooth as polished glass. Edges aligned with atomic planes, corners that rarely falter. Transparency that shifts from emerald to violet to icy blue. Color zones, too, obey geometry. Bands of purple or green stack in straight lines or right-angled steps, reinforcing the mineral's crystalline logic. In rare cases, such as northern England, Illinois, Namibia, and parts of China, Fluorite cubes develop so cleanly that their surfaces reflect light like mirrors. Under cross-polarized illumination, they reveal internal maps of trapped fluids, growth pauses, and twin boundaries that look like blueprints for miniature cities. Fluorite is the mineral where chemistry becomes architecture. Fluorite's clean geometry made it a symbol of structure in multiple civilizations. In ancient China, early specimens were polished into talismans believed to hold the straightness of the world, a metaphor for consistency and alignment. In medieval Europe, fluorite was considered the alchemy stone, not for mystical power, but for the way it dissolved into brilliant colors when heated alchemists saw it as the mineral that could change states without losing form, mirroring the transformation they sought in metals. Mining communities later gave it a simpler name, the engineer's crystal. Because in a world full of irregular shapes and chaotic minerals, fluorite cubes felt impossibly deliberate. Modern ritual use focuses on the cube's symbolic clarity. Unlike quartz, which scatters light and meaning in many directions, fluorite is seen as a stone of structure, sequence, and logical thought. Practitioners place cubic crystals at the cardinal points of ritual layouts, north, south, east, west, treating them as anchors for intention. The sharp geometry becomes a metaphor, decisions with edges, paths with boundaries, thought with architecture. Some rituals use color-zoned fluorite to represent mental layers, encouraging practitioners to descend through colors the way one would walk through levels of memory. This is not mysticism borrowed from antiquity. It is meaning drawn from form. Fluorite exists globally, but fine fluorite is scarce. Cubes larger than 5 centimeters, perfect edges with no beveling. Deep, saturated color, high transparency. Zoning patterns that look designed. Specimens from Rogerley Mine, UK, Dalnogorsk, Russia, Yaogangxian in Shangwaling, China, and the famous Illinois fluorite fields dominate the premium market. Collectors prize the paradox, a mineral formed by hydrothermal chaos that grows into geometric perfection. Some of the world's most valuable fluorite specimens display daylight fluorescence, glowing neon green under natural sun, and shift to deep blue under UV light. These pieces, with their architectural purity and optical drama, are among the most sought-after non-gem minerals on the planet. As high-level collectors move towards structural aesthetics, rather than color alone, fluorite cubes have become a benchmark, nature proving it can obey mathematics without tools. The countdown now enters sacred territory. Everything until now, color, geometry, anomaly, legacy, has prepared the stage. But the final stone breaks the rules differently, not through presence, but through absence. Not by what it reveals, but by what it refuses to show. In first place, velvet obsidian, a color that only appears when everything else falls quiet. There are stones that reveal themselves instantly, and then there is velvet obsidian, a mineral that refuses to be seen until the world around it grows still. Under ordinary light, it is nothing, a featureless black surface, soft as unlit glass. Nothing moves, nothing glows, nothing calls for attention, but tilted, even slightly, and a muted sheen rises from beneath the darkness. Not bright, not sharp, a quiet violet, a drifting green, a faint bronze. Colors that appear only at the edge of perception, as if the stone exhales light it has been holding for millennia. Velvet obsidian doesn't show its beauty. It allows it, briefly, when the viewer stops looking for anything loud. Its allure is built on silence. The stone forms during moments of volcanic stillness, when lava cools too quickly for crystals to grow, but slowly enough for iron and magnetite layers to settle into whisper-thin films. These layers are invisible in darkness, invisible in glare, invisible to distraction. Only grazing light reveals them. Only the smallest motion wakes them. Only the absence of brightness allows color to emerge. Its structure is simple, volcanic glass. Yet the thin film optics behave like memory, fragments of color held beneath a surface that appears to deny everything. Where fire obsidian burns, velvet obsidian murmurs. Among volcanic cultures of the Pacific, black obsidian carried deep roles as mirrors, blades and guiding tools. But stones with hidden iridescence were treated differently. They were not talismans, not weapons, not markers of status. They were kept wrapped, carried quietly, passed down with no ceremony, only instruction. Look only when the light is low. Do not force its color. Do not ask it to show more than it chooses. To these communities, velvet obsidian represented the part of knowledge whispered from elder to student. Not the obvious wisdom, not the carved symbols, but the unspoken lessons that can only be understood in silence. Its ritual use is equally restrained. Velvet obsidian was placed in darkened corners of ceremonial spaces, not as a focal piece but as a boundary, an object marking where noise ends. Practitioners sometimes turn the stone during meditative rites, letting the fleeting iridescence serve as a reminder. Revelation does not shout, truth does not glitter. The most profound insights appear only when attention softens. The stone does nothing dramatic. It sits, it waits. Its meaning emerges only when invited by quiet. Collectors of velvet obsidian are unlike collectors of most gemstones. They don't look for brilliance, saturation, or fire. They look for the impossible subtlety, a surface that appears empty until the exact angle unlocks a drifting, velvety sheen. High-value pieces come from select regions in the American Northwest and Mexico, where color films align in long, fluid waves, never bright, always reserved. Dealers describe the material not by its hues but by its behavior. It doesn't reveal itself all at once. It asks for patience. It shows only what you're quiet enough to see. In a market driven by spectacle, velvet obsidian rises by refusing to participate. It is the stone of restraint, the gemstone of understatement, the beauty that disappears the moment you try too hard to find it. The countdown ends not in brilliance, but in quiet. Not with a gemstone that shouts, but one that barely speaks. Velvet obsidian reminds us that the rarest forms of beauty do not compete for attention. They wait for it. In the end, every stone in this journey revealed something different. Geometry where none should exist. Colors born from silence. Patterns shaped by pressure, time, and chance. But the final gemstone reminds us of something deeper. That not all beauty announces itself, and not every mystery is meant to be solved at first glance. Thank you for exploring these 15 impossibilities of the Earth's imagination. If this journey sparked a new way of seeing the mineral world, you're welcome to stay for the next exploration before you go. Which stones stayed with you the longest? And why do you think that one refused to be forgotten?